This video is the closest I'll probably ever come to cautioning anyone against starting homesteading. This video is two things. First, it's a warning. It's a warning to not miss the one thing that you must do before you buy a homestead property to start homesteading. And secondly, it's a peek into our lives and actually a story of hope and how things have changed, because the bulk of this video I shot 2.5 years ago and I never published it. So what you're seeing is this talk that I made 2.5 years ago, a time when we were in a place of pretty intense loneliness, having moved out to a new place so we could buy this homestead here behind me. And at the end of the video, I'll come back and tell you the hope and the new perspective that we have and how all of this has actually turned out for us. Lots of people are gonna comment on this video, "Oh my gosh, you just wasted 20 minutes of my life. This is so simple. You're just talking and saying nothing." But then again, lots of people make decisions they regret and wish that they'd thought through more clearly before. This video is the closest I'll probably ever come to cautioning anyone against starting homesteading. Now, that's not what I'm gonna do. I wouldn't caution anyone against homesteading. But when you're looking at buying a piece of property to start homesteading, a lot of people talk about the attributes of the land. They say your land needs to have water, you need to think about what you want to do on your land, how much pasture do you need, what other resources are there, what about your neighborhood, what about your neighbors, what about the structures on the property. I believe the first step, the very first step, and this might sound a little cheesy, but I really believe this with all my heart. The first step is to actually look at yourself. The reason I say this is because as humans, sometimes we come up with these romantic ideas about what we want to do. And sometimes our romantic ideas, the thing that we kind of pin our hopes on, sometimes we have the wrong ideas about what it will actually be like. A lot of people in the comments of our channel say they want to start homesteading. In fact, we did a survey a little while ago on the community section of our YouTube channel, and the majority of people are actually people who say they're not homesteading, but they hope to homestead one day. And I think that's awesome. I'm so glad that that group of people are watching our channel. If that's you, I will not discourage you from buying land, starting homesteading, and pursuing that dream. In fact, I hope to encourage everyone to do that every day in our videos. The reason I say that you need to look inside yourself, however, is because I think that you can get very deeply disappointed if you just run straight after a dream without looking at yourself. So the first step is to look at yourself, to understand yourself, and know what you really want. I'm going to talk about a couple aspects of this. The first aspect is community. How important is community to you in relation to, or in comparison to, your dream of having a bunch of acres? When we're talking about picking a property, a lot of times to fit our finances, we actually have to move somewhere, maybe to another state. You know, we thought about moving to Idaho at one point actually, but in the end, we didn't move that far, but we did make a big leap. We moved an hour away, well, more than an hour away from many of our friends and family. We don't regret that decision at all. But I won't say that it's been easy all the time either. And we looked long and hard at whether we wanted to do this. It was a big decision. When we started our property search, we actually said one of our top criteria was being within 30 minutes of our hometown. And then after looking for property for a long time, we decided that actually wasn't feasible, and we decided that we wanted this lifestyle enough that we were gonna move out. I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't move to another state or that you shouldn't move outside of a town where you're going to have to establish a new community. But I think it's very, very important to look at how important is community to you. I would actually caution anyone who has a very strong, close-knit community, maybe a church community, maybe a supportive family community. I would caution you against jumping and moving away from that community. Having a close community is invaluable, and it can be very stressful and hard to rebuild a social community and a social network. I'm not saying that it's not possible. In fact, when you look at the pioneers in the history of this country, the United States, they left behind everything for a dream. I have ancestors who moved to the West Coast, went out the Oregon Trail, and they left everything behind for a dream of having their own space, freedom, their own land, and they found it in the end, but through much hardship. So when you're deciding if you want to homestead, and more specifically, if you want to make a geographic move to homestead, take the time to sit down and look at your life. Look at what makes your life healthy right now. Look at what makes you happy in your life right now. Because if you're in a close community, and if that's one of the main things that feeds you, then maybe you need to look for a smaller property and still pursue your dream of homesteading, but do it in proximity to that community. It's kind of like deciding to milk a cow or have a cow for milk. That's a huge decision. It has a big impact on your life. And sometimes we think we understand how hard something's gonna be because we've processed it, but we've not actually really realized this is gonna be a challenging experience. Milking our cow has been a pleasure. We definitely don't regret that, and we're planning on breeding her and doing this again. We'll have a little break where we're not milking. I don't think this is a matter of character. It's not, are you tough enough to move out to the wilderness? Are you tough enough to milk a cow every day and never go on vacation? It's a matter of what you, specifically you, really want and what you really value. So this video, if nothing else, is just an encouragement to take a holistic look at your life. The things that are making you healthy now, the things that you really want to be different, and then put that item, owning land and a house in the country on acreage, put that on your priority list. Where does that fall on your priority list? So what are some questions to ask yourself when you're doing this deep dive? How good are you at making social connections? Are you the kind of person who's just gonna drop into a new community and thrive? How good is your spouse at making social connections? That's really important. What do you really enjoy doing every day? And what do you really want to do in homesteading? What is it in homesteading that really draws you? Because it may be that the lifestyle that you're dreaming of, you could do perfectly well on a much smaller property than you're imagining. Would moving to the country force you to commute a significant distance? And would that bother you? You know, don't think about would it bother you this week. Would it bother you doing that for several years until you possibly made a transition to another job? Are you leaving behind a really close church community or other type of community that you're really gonna miss or not be able to leave behind? And then you end up kind of split if you end up driving back for all types of things. I want people to do homesteading, but I want them to do it with their whole heart and to not have regrets about any of their decisions. I'm making this video to encourage all of you to be methodical, thoughtful, and look closely at yourself and at your family as you're making the decisions of buying land, moving, buying a house, starting projects. I hope it's not condescending for me to say that to you, but it's something we've thought about a lot after moving out here. and realizing that it was actually more challenging. Even though we'd gone through the process, we'd said we know this is going to be so hard, it's actually more challenging than we thought it was going to be. We thought we'd done our heart due diligence, and I think maybe we were actually lacking in it a little bit. Okay, we're back in the present day. I'm looking down at this little farm here, and I just want to say we couldn't be happier with how things have turned out for us. We took a risk, we bought this place, we moved out where it was inconvenient to see our family and our friends, and a couple things have happened. One, our family has really supported us out here, and they've made the drive out here to stay connected with the kids more regularly than we drive back to town where they live. And that's a huge blessing. That's been all along. The big transformation in the 2.5 years since I made most of this video is that we have slowly but surely connected to local folks out here and built solid, supportive, lasting relationships with a lot of people who are doing similar stuff to what we're doing, which is amazing because it means we can team up on things, we can encourage each other with things. I just look back at that time, like right when we bought this place, I was working crazy hours as a nurse, and Bree was at home with 3 tiny kids and a newborn. That was Brighton, our son, and he was born just 9 days after we moved into this house. It was a crazy time, and it was so lonely. So I look back on this whole story as one of extreme gratefulness. We took a risk. We knew it was going to be really, really challenging. It was really challenging, and sometimes we were just scared that it wasn't going to change. And now, almost 5 years after buying this place, here we are, surrounded by friends, loving being out here. And that's your happy ending. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. I hope this helped out some of y'all today. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.